On December 1, 1987, Mötley Crüe entered the studio to embark on the recording of their upcoming album. Meanwhile, Nikki Sixx takes a significant step by enrolling in a methadone program. The effects of his drug use become evident as his weight plummets to 164 pounds, marking a staggering 40-pound drop in just 1 year. Nikki faces a creative struggle, finding it challenging to produce any noteworthy compositions. March 7 arrives, and the band finds themselves in the studio with a shortage of material for their upcoming album. In response, Nikki composes 2 new songs, Dancing on Glass and You're All I Need. The latter is a poignant piece dedicated to his ex-girlfriend, Nicole. Fueled by suspicions of infidelity during his tour last year, Nikki believes Nicole had been involved with Jack Wagner, an actor from General Hospital, whose song, All I Need, had topped the Billboard Adult Contemporary chart in 1985. The lyrics of You're All I Need delve into the dark realm of contemplating killing one's girlfriend. Fueled by resentment, Nikki brings a cassette copy of the song to Nicole's home and plays it for her, sparking a heated exchange where she labels him an asshole. Enraged, Nikki contracts a group of bikers, plotting to inflict harm upon Jack Wagner by breaking his kneecaps. April 2 arrives, and Nikki, accompanied by Tommy, embark on a fishing trip with their engineer Dwayne Barron. Under the influence of cocaine, their trip takes a hallucinatory turn, with the duo repeatedly playing the mastered Girls album on Tommy's portable ghetto blaster. Their manager Doc joins them, and shares Jon Bon Jovi's praise for the song You're All I Need, deeming it the pinnacle of their career. However, upon closer examination of the lyrics, John is confronted by the song's dark and morbid undertones, which sit in stark contrast to its otherwise catchy and poppy power ballad tune. Meanwhile, Vince seeks amusement outside of touring, frequenting Palm Springs and the Caribbean. At this point, Bon Jovi and Mötley Crüe are very friendly, and Vince Neil joins Bon Jovi for a few days in Atlanta, participating in encore jams and enjoying the company of the band at a local strip joint called Tattletales. Tommy, on the other hand, continues indulging in his passion for dirt biking and regularly tees off on Californian golf courses. Mick Mars spends a considerable amount of time acquiring firearms. April 10 marks an incident at Nikki's home when a guard from West Tech Security pays a visit. Upon arrival, the guard is confronted by a naked Nikki brandishing a shotgun and accusing the security guard of bugging his house.
You bug my house, you asshole.
Doc McGee intervenes to defuse the situation, growing wary of Nikki's spiraling drug-induced paranoia. Nikki's erratic behavior escalates, with vivid hallucinations of Mexicans and midgets running rampant in his home. He sets off alarms, and neighbors report witnessing him crawling naked through the garden, shotgun in hand, at least twice a week. On April 15, as a drug-addled Nikki lies on his bed with girlfriend Vanity, he becomes convinced that he's hearing voices and intruders in his house. Filled with paranoia, he shouts and fires his .357 Magnum through his bedroom door. Fearing for their safety, they barricade themselves in the bedroom overnight. The following day, Nikki realizes that it was merely his radio playing tricks on him, and that the bullet from his shot had penetrated his new JBL speakers. As Vanity prepares to leave the house, she declares Nikki her soulmate and proposes marriage. Fearing further turmoil and argument, Nikki reluctantly accepts, although he feels that his funeral might come first. A big party takes place at Nikki's residence on April 21, 1987. In the midst of the revelry, Guns N' Roses' Slash wakes up in one of Nikki's spare bedrooms, surrounded by women, and realizing he's wet the bed during his sleep. Nikki, consumed by drug-induced paranoia, having heavy wooden shutters installed on all the windows of his house, contemplates rehab. But he believes he has too much to accomplish. Despite having so much to accomplish, Nikki reaches a point of injecting heroin into a vein in his penis, convinced of his own magnificence, and also in response to the veins on his arms having dried up. As night falls, he lies in bed with the gun, contemplating putting an end to the insanity by pulling the trigger. But it's not all bad news. On May 11, Girls, 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 the title track from Mötley Crüe's new album, is released. The accompanying music video, featuring topless strippers, faces immediate censorship by MTV, leading the band to create a censored version for airplay. The video showcases the band's love for motorcycles, with appearances by their newly formed Harley-Davidson riding club, the Dark Angels. Vince's girlfriend, Charisse Riddell, appears in the video alongside professional female wrestler and wet t-shirt queen, Keisha. To this day, the song remains a mainstay at strip clubs all over the world. The single hits number 12 on the US chart, the highest for the band thus far, and a sign of things to come. On May 15, 1987, the album drops. It receives mixed, but mostly positive reviews. It's no Slippery When Wet, but the album does hit number 2 on the Billboard chart, second only to Whitney Houston's Whitney album. The album, like its two predecessors, would also eventually be certified 4 times platinum. But still, it has fallen 8 million units shy of Bon Jovi's 1986 masterpiece. 1987 in fact proved to be a landmark year for iconic hard rock and heavy metal releases, with Def Leppard's Hysteria, Slayer's Rain in Blood, Anthrax's Among the Living, Whitesnake's self-titled album, and of course, Guns N' Roses' generation-defining Appetite for Destruction, all dropping that year. Shortly after the release of the album, Tommy Lee has a dream of playing drums while upside down. Inspired by this vision, he expresses his desire to make it a reality. He discusses the idea with management, hoping they can design a drum kit capable of spinning like a gyroscope while he performs. June 19 sees the commencement of the Girls, Girls, Girls US tour in Tucson, Arizona, with Whitesnake providing support. The band showcases an elaborate show, powered by the largest PA system ever used on tour. The performances incorporate a giant inflatable Harley-Davidson motorcycle and Tommy's dreams coming true with a spinning drum cage designed in collaboration with a former Navy submarine hydraulics specialist, wowing the crowd. Nikki and Tommy's consumption of Jack Daniels on stage becomes part of the show, with Jack Daniels even releasing a Mötley Crüe promotional bottle. By September 16, the Girls, Girls, Girls album is certified double platinum in the US, having sold more than 2 million copies. The following month, You're All I Need is released as the third single from Girls, Girls, Girls. It marks the first time the band releases so many singles from one album. The song reaches number 83 on the US charts during its 8-week stay, and the accompanying music video features actor Gino Andrews playing a jealous lover who gets arrested for killing his girl. Needless to say, it was banned from MTV. On December 19, after completing their Japanese tour, Tommy heads back to LA to spend Christmas with his wife, Mick with his love interest Emmy, and Nikki, without a partner or a stable home life, decides to embark on a solo tour of Asia, seeking drugs and prostitutes. He envisions a journey that includes Hong Kong, Malaysia, Beijing, and Bangkok. Despite attempts to dissuade him, Nikki remains determined to go, with Japanese concert promoter Mr. Udo accompanying him and Doc McGee reluctantly joining. On December 22nd, Nikki flies into Los Angeles from Tokyo, getting high on a 10cc shot in the limo that picks him up. He arrives at his recently purchased house. In a drug-induced state, he looks in the mirror, seeing his deteriorating physical condition. Sixx, overwhelmed by loneliness, decides to call his friends Robin Crosby from Rat and Slash from Guns N' Roses for a night of escapades. He hops into his silver limousine and picks up Robin from his place before heading to the Franklin Plaza Hotel where Guns N' Roses is staying. Nikki arrives at Slash's door holding a bottle of whiskey and a beaver hair top that he had previously vomited on in the limo. They make their way to the cat house, with Slash's girlfriend Sally McLaughlin stopping by Robin's dealer to pick up heroin along the way. Throughout the night they indulge in drugs, frequently going back and forth between the club and the limo. The group return to the hotel, followed by some fans from the club. Robin's dealer meets them there with a fresh supply of Persian heroin. Nikki enters Steven Adler's suite with the dealer, where he prepares to inject himself. Tragically, the heroin instantly turns Nicky blue, causing him to collapse when he knocks on Slash's door and Sally opens it. Startled by the sight of Nicky, the dealer jumps out of the hotel room window and flees down the street, shouting that he had just killed Nikki Sixx. With Slash unable to move, Steven Adler attempts to revive him by beating on his chest. In a desperate act, Adler slaps Slash in the face with his cast from a broken arm. Slash, now conscious, enters the bathroom and panics upon seeing Nicky, recalling the loss of his friend Todd to a heroin overdose a few months prior. As Sally performs mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on Nicky over the bathtub, she struggles to calm Slash, who smashes the shower screen, causing shattered glass to rain down on them. In a fit of anger, Sally punches Slash and desperately calls for someone to dial 911, hoping to save Nicky's life. Paramedics arrive promptly, taking over from Sally's resuscitation efforts, and they administer adrenaline and rush him out of the room. The police question everyone in Axel's room, but fail to notice drugs and cocaine hidden in plain sight. Nicky's limo driver, Boris, contacts Vince to inform him of the dealer's claim and that he witnessed Nicky being wheeled into an ambulance with a sheet covering his face. News of Nicky's death spreads rapidly, reaching radio stations, which announce the tragic news. Mötley Crüe's manager, Rich Fisher, calls Vince to confirm the overdose. Vince is left in tears. Tommy receives a call from Slash, who informs him that despite their efforts, Nicky was taken away by the paramedics with a sheet over his face. Despite being pronounced dead for a few minutes, Nicky experiences an out-of-body vision at the Franklin Plaza Hotel, coincidentally named after his birth name. He hears the words, "We're losing him," and attempts to sit up and observe what is happening. He ascends slowly towards a bright light above him. From his vantage point, he sees his lifeless body on a gurney, covered entirely, being pushed into an ambulance by the paramedics who confirm his death. He also catches sight of devoted fans who had followed them, as well as his silver limo. After giving him up for dead, a second dose of adrenaline brings his out-of-body vision down fast through the roof of the ambulance with a painful jerk, the shot kick-starting his heart. He opens his eyes to see a needle in each side of his chest and hears a man say that no one will die in his ambulance. When he awakes in Cedar Sinai Hospital to a policeman shining a torch in his eyes, asking where he got the drugs, Sixx abuses him and tells him he's not being held on any charges. Against medical advice, Nicky pulls the tubes from his nose and the IV out of his arm, before signing himself out of hospital wearing only his leather pants. Outside, in the parking lot, Nicky encounters two female teenage fans crying on the curb, holding candles in mourning for his reported death. He hops in their Mazda and they drive him home to Van Nuys, lending him one of their jackets. During the journey, they hear news of Nicky's demise playing on radio stations.
Nikki Sixx of Mötley Crüe has been reported dead,
leading him to realize that he indeed has a multitude of Kerrang fans. He arrives home at 5:45 a.m. He heads straight to his answering machine and changes the message to play a prank, stating,
"Hi, this is Nikki Sixx. I'm not here because I'm dead."
He then enters his bathroom and shoots up again, passing out. Nicky wakes up on the blood-soaked bathroom floor, still with the heroin needle protruding from his arm. As his answering machine plays Doc's message, he finds himself at Doc's house in Tarzana, convinced to undergo detox. Bob Timmons assists him at Doc's house, while Steve and Tyler from Aerosmith calls regularly, attempting to bully Nicky into getting clean, by telling him that if he doesn't, the next time he won't be coming back to life. Meanwhile, in the Bon Jovi camp, the Slippery When Wet tour takes them all over the world in 1986 and 87. Part of the North American tour sees them opening for bands like Judas Priest and 38 Special. John Bon Jovi remembers,
"We were in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, when we found out that the album made #1 in America. Bon Jovi were selling 1 million records a month, and it was phenomenal. 38 Special's manager said, maybe we'll let you be co-headliners. We went, great, gotta go now. It's our time."
The band gets bigger and bigger as the tour progresses, but the sudden rise to fame doesn't come easy for Jon Bon Jovi.
I remember reading about how the Beatles stopped playing live because everyone just screamed, though. All the shows, musicianship, and song quality meant so little to the fans that the band just felt undervalued. You know what? I understand what they mean. It got so bad when we toured for Slippery that there were times I was freaking out. We indulged in everything that was on offer, but it wasn't real. And what I wanted above all else was to be given credit for the work I put into the songs and into the recording. The problem was that I didn't notice how the image overtook what we were about.
Bon Jovi, self-admittedly, started as a glorified bar band with a simple desire to entertain. They embraced an honest blue-collar approach that resonated more with New Jersey's own Bruce Springsteen than the wild antics of Mötley Crüe. With their long hair and rock and roll image, Bon Jovi managed to find a balance that didn't intimidate parents, cleverly bridging the gap between youthful pop and edgier rock music. It's difficult to gauge just how many individuals first discovered the heavier side of rock through bands like Bon Jovi. The band's Slippery When Wet tour saw them play in front of over 4 million people around the world, and it was flanked by a second appearance at Donington's famous Monsters of Rock festival in '87. But this time, they weren't playing second or third fiddle to bands like Marillion. In the space of just 2 years, Bon Jovi's star had ascended so quickly that they now headlined the iconic festival. And below them on the bill, an eclectic hard rock and heavy metal cast featuring Dio, Metallica, Anthrax, Wasp, and Cinderella. Bon Jovi was on top of the lineup and on top of the world, and now they became prime targets for extra love and attention from their and Mötley Crüe's manager, Doc McGee.